Will the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, August 21st, 2019, please come to order? For the benefit of those who may not have participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. 1, the Secretary will read the legal call of the meeting as published in the local newspapers. 2, the applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the Commissioners. 3, there will then be the opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. First, those who wish to support the application may come forward. Second, those who oppose the application will then be invited to come forward. As this is a public hearing and must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves, state their name and address before addressing the Commission. 4, the applicant is then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing in the regular meeting, at which time the Commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the Commission and has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 5, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated this evening are the following members: Richard Wallace. I'm Phil Johnson, Alan Brown, Jason Marchi, Jamie Stein, Frank DeAndrea. Town staff is Town Planner George Kroll, Zoning Enforcement Aaron Mannix. Our recording secretary is Lisa Piombino. Our videographer this evening is Peter Schultz. And Kevin, you're here to say something? And Kevin McGee, environmental planner? Okay. The secretary is not here, so will the vice chair please read the legal notice?
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on August 24th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. at location being the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, in the Mononkatuk Room on the second floor for the following purposes. Gal and, excuse my pronunciation, Dinyat Zoberman, 267 Sachem Head Road, Map 8, Lot 32, Zone R5, coastal site plan construction for dock and associated stairs. Vigliotti Construction, Long Hill Road Subdivision, Long Hill Estates, West, Map 96, Lots 1, 2A, and 1D, Zone R5, special permit application for 31 lot open space subdivision. Michael and Candace Van Eminence, 321 Foxwood Road, Map 88, Lot 19 and 20, Zone R8, special permit for accessory apartment, 640 square feet living space, and a new attached garage of 360 square feet. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 30th day of July, 2019. Philip Johnson, Chairman.
Thank you. Quick housekeeping matter. There are 2 items tonight for Bennett Hall. One is the CAM application with respect to septic, and the second was the subdivision. The subdivision, the second portion of that, has been tabled to the meeting of September 4th, 2019. If anyone, you might be waiting around a long time, so thought I'd put that out. So if you don't want to stay, you don't have to for that. First item is Bennett Hall Trustee, 135 Old Quarry, Narrow Island, Map 6, Lot 6B, Zone R5, coastal site plan to install 2 new septic systems and after-the-fact approval for dock landing exceeding 36 square feet landward of the mean high water, amended and continued from 8/7/19.
For the record, I'm Mark Young. I'm a land surveyor with Waldo Associates, representing Mr. Hall in this application. This is a portion of Narrows Island, which is down the end of Old Quarry. Currently, there are 2 houses on the property. The main house here and a smaller studio here. Currently, it's a single parcel. Currently, there's 1 septic system and 1 well. Both houses share the well and the septic. Now, Mr. Hall has considered subdividing the property, and in order to subdivide, each house has to have a separate septic system on the lot on which it is situated. So in order to make that possible, we have to build new septic systems for each house. There's no problem with the current system. It's functioning adequately. But because of this provision in the health code, we are building new systems now, and we will apply for a subdivision at a later date. Also, we need a new well for the studio lot. We have 2 locations which have been selected by the well driller. One spot over here and one spot down here. Now, the wastewater from the well drilling will be contained in a settling pit here, and it'll be pumped out into a filter bag, which will trap the remaining sediment. We're also applying for approval of the dock landing here. This has been here for 20-some years. I don't know the history of it, but the DEP reviewer has noted that it's not permitted. The dock is not permitted, so we're applying for the floating part, and also applying for the coastal site plan approval for the dock. I believe it was put in before coastal area management was invented, but here we are. So the new wells, the new septic systems are state of the art. It's called a geometric system. It's well thought of in the community, the professional community. They're completely code complying. The system has been reviewed and approved by the health department. I think they will, there's adequate soil, and they will function perfectly well. We have specified a silt fence around here for any erosion control. In fact, there's the gravel driveway, which will actually contain, any runoff will certainly get trapped by the gravel driveway. So, the only construction, the only earth disturbance is for the new septic systems. The houses will remain the same, and of course for the wells, but it's minimal. And the dock is already there. So, as far as the coastal resources, we pretty much got everything in the book. They're listed on the plan with proper construction procedures. There will be no effect on any of the resources. So I think this will actually improve the septic treatment because of the modern systems, and have no significant impact on the coastal resources.
Questions from commissioners?
Yeah.
I have some too.
Okay. You want to go first? Or?
Just historically, was the smaller house put in as an accessory apartment? How do we have multiple houses on a single lot? Multiple residences?
Perhaps the owner of Bennett Hall.
The studio was built first.
If you could step forward and just name and address for the record, that would be great.
The studio was built first in 1998, and then this house was built after that. And this house wasn't completed until 2005.
Okay, so there was.
Yeah, when we went to get the permit to do this, what we did was, they said that we could have a studio here, but it's not an accessory apartment, it's just a studio. It couldn't have a kitchen in it, and it only could be so many square feet. It's 740 square feet and 20 feet in height. So it met the requirements here. And so now, I have a person who wants to buy this property. So what we're asking is down the road, once we get the septic systems installed, we would ask to subdivide the property and sell off this. We also went to the zoning board of appeals back in 2014, I think it was, and got a variance for the 2 lots.
Yeah, that's regarding the lot size of the lot for the studio, but we'll discuss that at a later meeting when we're in for the subdivision.
Great, yeah, thank you. I see that you did your due diligence for current conditions, but I'm just wondering, what is the sort of the lifespan of this system? And does it have a design in it that would continue to operate for flooding or sea level rise? I mean, I'm thinking 2030, 2040.
This system it's got the same lifespan as any other system that's built anywhere in Connecticut.
Which is 25 years?
Yeah, depending on the usage, could be 50 years easily.
Okay, so 2050 we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, again, if typical, speaking in general terms, typical 4-bedroom house, if you have 8 people living there and, you got 4 teenage girls taking showers every day,
Right.
no, you'll probably have a problem in 10 years. But, if you've got, family with 2 kids or maybe an older couple, the system will last forever.
Right, so my question is a little bit more targeted towards future flooding, especially in this particular area, future sea level
Well,
rise. Will this
The system is,
function?
let's see, flood elevation is 12. Okay, now this system, it's, the bottom of the units are at 14, and this system, the bottom of the units are at 11. So they're pretty much above the flood elevation.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that's
And both of the buildings are above the flood elevation.
right.
Thank you.
The flood zone line goes around like this. So both houses are out of the flood zone.
That's the 100-year flood zone you're talking about,
Correct.
not the 500.
Correct.
Just a quick question. Obviously it's an island with rock. How accessible is the water going to be?
Well, it's a relatively shallow aquifer. This well here, it's, 20 feet, Bennett? Yeah. About 20 feet, and water's adequate. So that's, we have 2 possible systems we're going to try here, and hopefully the water will be decent. Generally, in a waterfront location like this, you have a fairly shallow freshwater aquifer because the freshwater is lighter than the saltwater. So if you're prudent with your water use and don't drill too deep, adequate wells are feasible.
The after-the-fact dock, I've been reading ahead here in my packet. DEP has noted in a letter to the commission that the dock located on the property is not permitted by Connecticut DEP. The applicant should submit an application to DEP to get that unpermitted dock registered.
That, we have a consultant who is proceeding with that application.
What that does for us, approving the dock.
Yeah,
That's, of course, the DEP application is for the floating park.
yes.
And here, we're seeking approval of the fixed part. of
The anchor
landing.
listing.
If you could go over me just again, the water to the top, that's all Long Island Sound, right?
Yes, well, it's all Long Island Sound, all around.
All around.
The
The high
shoreline, the southerly shoreline of Old Quarry is roughly up here.
Okay.
It's 400 or 500 feet across the bay. If you're not familiar with this area, you can kind of see it on the location plan here. The access is across a bridge. The driveway goes across a bridge, which spans a channel which is about 30 feet across.
So where's due south on this map?
North is straight up, due
North is
south is
straight
straight
up.
up. Yeah. This island goes roughly like this.
And that's all, that shoreline's consisting of rocky?
Yeah, it's, the shoreline is rock, yes, and there's some, a stretch out this way, which is mostly rock. There's soil on large part of the, large part of it up here. The studio is mostly up on rock, but there's soil along the side. As I say, we dug test holes in the vicinity of the septic system, and we found 3 to 5, 6 feet of soil, which is suitable for septic. So there is soil.
There are a couple letters in our packet that we'll read into the record, and then we'll take questions, either additional from the commissioners or from the audience, if that's okay.
Okay, to answer one of the questions we've been pushing here, the Planning and Zoning Commission, Dennis Johnson, Director of Health, August 20th, 2019, Bennett Hall, Trustee, 135 Quarry Road, Map 6, Lot 6B. The soil test conducted in the applicant prior to reveals a suitable soil combination for installing of 2 code-complying septic systems and private wells for the existing house and the studio structure. The presence of the shallow bedrock on the island will require both septic and septic system to be elevated and constructed to fill. Replacement of the proposed septic system and as dedicated in the proposal subsurface sewerage disposal system plan by Waldo and Associates dated 8/9/19 will allow any future proposal subdivisions to maintain both the septic system and the well on the property lot. Based on the soil test results and the site plan in the recommended that the applicant proposal site plan prepared by Waldo and Associates dated 8/19 be approved.
Do you have a copy of that?
I do not.
Would you like a copy?
I'll do one from Kevin.
Go for it, Frank.
You want to read his own, or you want me to read it?
Kevin, you want to take it? No, yeah, we'd like to. Come on up.
Real, I forgot Kevin was here.
The information provided indicates that the property owner plans on separating an existing septic system currently shared by a resident and a studio into 2 separate systems and installing a well for the studio. The applicant is also requesting approval for a dock landing located above the mean high tide. The property is located in a FEMA VE elevation 15, AE elevation 12 flood zone and a flood zone X. Coastal resources at the site are comprised of islands, beaches, dunes, coastal waters, rocky shorefront bluffs, escarpments, tidal wetlands. All site coastal resources consist of intertidal flats and shellfish concentrations. The new leaching system for the studio is located in a flood zone AE12. The mitigation measures noted on the coastal management application provide for erosion and sediment control that are designed to protect the adjacent coastal resources as long as they are properly installed and maintained. The work being conducted could have a minor impact on the adjacent resources. As part of the low-impact development guidelines, the applicant is required to review the Connecticut DEP Natural Diversity Database map and submit a Natural Diversity Database review request if the property is located in the mapped area. The Natural Diversity Database review for the property noted common current and state species of special concern is located in the area of the project. Dawn McKay, environmental analyst for the Connecticut DEP, recommends that all work be conducted between August 15th and March 31st to minimize the impact to the species. Carol Zeminski with the Connecticut DEP noted in a letter to the Commission that one of the docks located on the property is not permitted by the Connecticut DEP. The applicant should submit an application to the Connecticut DEP to get the unpermitted dock registered. In order to make sure the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. The zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sediment erosion control measures prior to the site construction. Soil stockpiles should be maintained by silt fence or hay bales. Soil erosion and sediment control measures should be maintained and vegetation is established where suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. The well cutting should be contained in the settling pit, and well drilling fluids should be pumped into a sediment bag. The sediment bag should be contained by hay bales or silt fence. No site work being conducted between March 31st and August 15th.
Thank you. Any more questions from commissioners? Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions for the applicant? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application?
Should note that Carol's letter is in the file along with the NADB review. It's kind of a split letter for the two different applications, so maybe you could have that.
We don't have the letter, I don't have the
Do you want to?
And maybe help off for the subdivision. There's more geared towards that one there.
Do you want to read it or just submit it?
I'll read the letter here.
That'd be great.
It's in the file. It's just not copied.
Two-lot residential subdivision, 135 Old Quarry Road, Bennett Hall applicant. Dear Commissioner, this is a letter from DEP. Thank you for referring the two-lot subdivision received July 1st, 2019 for us to review and comment on. Project description: the subject property is a 124,125 square foot waterfront lot on Narrows Island in R5 district, which hosts a single-family residence, deck, garage, well, detached cabanas and studio. The applicant proposes to subdivide the existing lot into two lots. Lot 1 is proposed to be 74,637 square feet. Lot 2 proposed to be 40,674 square feet. It appears that the proposed lot number 2 does not comply with the minimum lot size, and subdivision cannot be approved on the site. No construction of residences is proposed at this time except for the addition of a septic system. No construction of residence is proposed at this time except for the addition of a second septic system and an upgrade to the existing septic system. We assume that the gravel driveways are private right-of-way. Its ownership and rights to pass are unclear. Coastal resources on the site are significant and include islands, beaches, dunes, coastal waters, rocky shorefront bluffs, and escarpments. Coastal hazard areas B15, A12, and X, tidal wetlands, and shorelines. State permits: it appears that the island hosts 2 docks and only one has a permit for house number 133. The dock off lot 135 does not appear to be pre-1995 structure and requires a permit from this office. The float appears to be 8 feet long by 16 foot wide, 128 square feet, whereas we allow floats to be no more than 100 square feet. We respectfully request that the Commission refrain from acting upon the subdivision until the permit application is submitted to our office. NDDB review: due to the presence of a state listed species on or near the site, no construction work, including septic system installation or repair, should take place between March 15th and August 15th. In conclusion, we hope these comments are helpful to the Commission pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 22A 110. We request these comments to be read into the record of the public hearing for this application. We can be further assistance to you or any other management along the sound-related matters. Please feel free to contact us.
Kevin, I
Carol Zeminski.
have one question for you, based on your letter, just so I understand what we're reading here. What is a flood zone X? Because I couldn't find a reference in that.
Flood zone X is actually a area outside of the main flood zone, so it's not really an area we require insurance for.
The FEMA defines it as area of minimal flooding.
Thank you, Mark.
And again, that's for this current year.
That's where these houses are located, in Zone X.
No, I mean, it's for 2019. Is that I'm still harping on this question of 50 years from now, that property is going to have a different water level.
Well,
Yeah, because there's been some discussion of what the acceleration rate would be of flood, how much sea level rise is going to occur over so many years, which would affect storm surges.
I don't think it'll be significant.
The application's today, so.
Right.
We kind of have to deal with what we have today versus.
Yeah, I don't think it's,
I don't see if we can deal with
we
it.
can't
20
really,
years from now.
I agree with you. I just think we have to deal with what's in front of us right now.
Right, but point of discussion is that I asked earlier about the lifetime of this system, and it,
Yeah,
is meant to be functioning 30, 40 years from now.
Yes.
It's a point to consider.
yes.
Mark, I think the predictions for the next 20, 25 years is sea level rise of about 2 feet or so.
Well, that's,
So where does
well,
the bottom of your system relate to that number projection?
well, I don't believe that's going to happen. Sea level's been rising at the same rate for 200 years, and there's no reason to think it's not going to continue to rise at that same rate, which is 3 millimeters per year, or something like that.
Right, but the state requires us to look at this number, which has been projected.
Okay.
To us, so.
Well, again, I can't predict the future, neither can any of us. But, this system is, what did we say?
I think you said 11 and 12.
This system is at elevation 14, at the bottom of the system, so that the surface will be about elevation 16. And again, this one tops at 12.5, so the ground on top of the system is about elevation 13, which is a foot above the flood zone anyway. And also, too, these are on the bay side. So, any wave action will be on the ocean side over here, and these will not be subject to that action.
Right. You're looking at the question, the normal high tide, the average high tide right now is elevation 4,
Yes, something like that.
and then the sea level projections bring it up in the next 20 years up to elevation 6. So the bottom of this proposed system should be above that.
Oh, they'll be well above that.
I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know where that prediction comes from, but
I think this
it won't be a problem.
discussion illustrates that, as the Director of Health said, this system complies with the current codes and laws. If we want to revise those codes and laws based on some anticipated change in conditions, then we should pursue that in accordance with the normal processes for revising those codes, whatever they are. Are you okay with the time of year limitation on construction?
Not a problem. We're already past that.
You're going to build this system between now and this winter.
I think we were at, does anyone like to speak in favor of or against this application?
I wouldn't say it's against, but it's not in favor.
Would you like to,
Yes.
okay?
Jeffrey Beatty, 705 Boston Post Road, the owner. I'm here on behalf of Ted and Rosemary Janet, who own a lot on this end of the island. Their concerns are similar to what we're raising some of the questions. It's just if the system were to fail, what impact it would have on their property, particularly given that it's on an island and the effluent would potentially impact their property. So that's what their concern is. They just wanted me to make that aware. So they're not opposed directly, they're just concerned about what the impact might be on their property down the road.
What I can say is, we're trying to deal with, what the Director of Health has said, and it's obviously been built at a height that is currently above base flood elevation, correct? So, not sure how much more we can do. I appreciate your concerns.
Their concern is it's an island. There are some areas that there's suitable soils, but the rest of it is rock.
Right.
And if there were to be an issue, they're just concerned what that impact might be on them. So, thank you.
No, I think you answered. If you have any other ways to, appease people's concerns, I assume that septic systems will be on a regular maintenance program like everyone else.
They're the same as any other
Right.
septic system in town, regulated by our health department. And they'll be built by a competent contractor, inspected by the health department. I don't anticipate any issue with that at all.
Is that an island? Yeah. It's got a nice bridge that goes out to it. It's great.
Oh, okay, you got a bridge going out to it, because I was going to say, the septic systems need to be cleaned every 5 years.
Yep.
So as long as the truck can get out there.
Well, there's an existing home out there with a system as well.
Yeah, but that might have been done a long
It
time
came
ago.
from by Whitfield Sanitation. And the residents are just me. So, and then the people that propose to buy the studio and leave it exactly the way it is, just put in a new kitchen, because it will be a separate lot, and it's a retired couple with no children.
Someone want to make a motion to close?
I'll make the motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Bernard and Sandra Lombardi, 70 Reeves Avenue, map 9, lot 76, zone R2, special permit modification for 10 by 12 storage shed. and a 6 by 9 foot 6 inch addition to a former rear porch to create a sunroom. I believe this was continued from our last meeting, and I suspect that you went to inland wetlands.
I did.
Good.
My name's Bernard Lombardi. I'm an architect and resident at 70 Reeves Avenue, along with my wife Sandra. We presented this application 2 weeks ago at a meeting, and if I may follow Janice Plasiak, your town engineer, and use the chair as my easel. If anyone objects, I'll set up an easel, but this was very convenient. The property is at the corner of Reeves Avenue and the turn down towards Daniel Avenue, shown in the green on the site plan. The site plan shows the property. North is to my right, and, I'm sorry, north is up, is towards me. The existing house is in the pale yellow, and the proposed additions are in the darker tan. The first addition is a storage unit. Previously, we had, the commission had approved, and the wetlands had approved, an addition that was 22 by 18 across, an addition that was attached to the house.
For the sake of, I was at the last meeting, so let me just kind of jump. Is there
Sure.
anything substantially different from, your presentation was great last time, so I
Thank
don't want
you.
to make you have to do it all again.
That's great. I do have some figures that I perhaps didn't indicate last 2 weeks ago. I know I did say what the property is, the requirement is 10,000 square feet, and we're 9,755 square feet, and that's why we're at a special permit. The difference between the previous approval and this one is previously we had a setback of 15 feet and a sum of 46.7. We now have a setback of 15 and a sum of 40 feet 8 inches. The building coverage previously approved was 14.1, and it is now 12.2. The total floor area previously approved was 23.1, and we're now proposing 17.2. The impervious surface coverage was 16% previously, and it's now at 13.7%. That kind of brings it up to date. All better, yes.
There is a note.
And we were at the Wetlands Commission last week and received approval.
Terrific. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
There is a note here from Kevin McGee, and he happens to be here, so we'll ask him to read his note.
All right, the applicant is proposing to modify the previous approval by installing a 120 square foot shed instead of a 326 foot addition, along with the construction of a 57 square foot sunroom. Wetlands located on the north side of the property. The Inland Wetlands Commission at its August 14, 2019 meeting voted to approve a modification of the regulated activity at 70 Reeves Avenue for the installation of a 10 by 12 shed and the construction of a 6 foot by 9.5 sunroom within a 100 foot jurisdiction review area. In order to make sure that the natural resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. The town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified and inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing or hay bales. Soil and sediment controls shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer.
Thank you. Do you have a copy of that letter? Do you want one?
Sure. I do not have a copy, but I'd love one.
Terrific. Any questions from commissioners? Yeah, I mean, it's nice presentation. You're obviously reducing the impact from a prior approval. Thank you for your diligence. Any questions from the audience? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak against the application?
Motion to close the public. Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Gail and Dagnit Zouderman, 267 Old Sachem's Head Road, map 8, lot 32, zone R5, coastal site plan, construction of a dock and associated stairs.
Good evening, Chuck Mandel, agent for the owner, Mr. and Mrs. Zoberman. The property is located at 267 Old Sachem's Head Road. It's in an R2 zone. They're proposing stairs, pier, ramp, and float for access to Joshua Cove. My clients had gone to DEP for a 440 general permit. It's for minor coastal structures and was granted approval on 4/15/19. The license number 201904977 LISGP. That's by the Land and Water Resource Division. With this permit in hand, they subsequently went for a building permit and found out they needed a coastal area management permit from P&Z. That brings us here tonight, and I have a copy of the application that was granted as a permit. I don't think I might not have enough to go around, but we'll share. We'll share. And I do have a detail of the actual stairs and construction. That's just a blow of the area. Yeah. Very steep slope there. They do have landscape architect involved they're going to remove all the invasive species there, and it's a fairly simple project. If there are any questions.
There is a letter here from Carol Zemansky, environmental analyst from the DEP, Energy and Environmental Protection, regarding coastal site plan review for a dock and waterfront lot 267 Old Sachem's Head Road. Gale and Dagnit Soberman applicants. Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring this coastal site plan review received July 18, 2018 for review and comment. Project description. The subject property is a waterfront lot, and the property owners have received a 4/40 general permit, dock permit, from this office on April 15, 2019. We support the applicant's proposal to build a dock. Coastal resources out on site include coastal flood hazard area, coastal waters, rocky shorefront, and shorelands. Conclusion, we hope these comments are helpful to the Commission pursuant to CGS Section 22A-110. We request that these comments be read into the record at the public hearing for this application. If we can be of further assistance to you on this and any other coastal management, Long Island Sound related matter, please feel free to contact me, 860-424-3138. Carol Zemansky, Environmental Analyst 2. Kevin, come on down.
Letters today.
The application is for the construction of a residential dock, 20-foot-long pier, 27-foot-long ramp, and a floating dock located above high mean tide line, along with the construction of a pathway and steps down to the dock. The applicant has received permit number 20190497777 from Oil and Sun program from the Connecticut DEP for the construction of the dock. The proposed work has a minimum impact on the coastal resources along with erosion control measures are properly maintained. The Connecticut DEP permit provided conditions designed to protect the coastal resources and aquatic vegetation. Just like to make one statement here. While reviewing the application, it was noted, I think the approval has noted that there's steps also involved besides the dock, and also there's also a pathway down the yard, down towards the dock, which should be approved by the Commission as part of the application there. And those are shown within the permit package from the DEP of a the house is here, path kind of working its way down to the steps and down to the steps down to the docks there.
Approximately 125 feet from the house to the dock. To the
So I have no issue with that being constructed as part of the application.
Yeah, I suspect it's.
And the road controls are in place to handle that.
This is a special permit, correct? This is a site plan, so it's not. This is the camp.
Shoot. Why is your dock going 27 feet out?
That's all it's allowed. for DEP. That's all that's allowed for DEP, for that 440 permit.
Well, this happens to be a clamming area.
I'm sorry?
It happens to be a clamming area.
Actually, we contacted the Harbor Commission, they had no interest in this permit.
Contacted the Harbor Commission?
I believe so.
And they said what?
They had no interest, they had no jurisdiction.
No interest?
Correct.
Well, I think the clamming commission might have an interest in that. You're going 27 feet out into an area that they clam in, and you're not going out because of the tide, because the tide goes completely out there. So there's no advantage from that point. So why do we need to go 27 feet out from the shoreline?
That's what the applicant required, requested.
I'm against that, I'll tell you right now, because that is one of the heaviest clamming areas in the state of Connecticut, never mind in the town. And with you running this dock 27 feet out and then putting your dock, a floating dock at the end of it, you're using a lot of the area that the clammers would be there. And I know clammers are there. That's the area they do. So you're impeding the clamming.
Well, if the dock's floating, they should be able to clam around it, correct? If they so chose.
No, if the tide's out, they can clam around it, yeah, but they can't clam in any of this area or under that either. You know?
State issued
Yes.
The permit's been
for that
issued.
dock?
Just to clarify, the dock and the facilities waterward of the mean high tide are not under your jurisdiction. That's the DEP's permitting jurisdiction, not ours.
They have issued a permit for that dock.
Basically oriented tide.
Our jurisdiction is from the mean high tide
Up.
to the shore.
What's that?
Our jurisdiction is from mean high tide inland. And then the DEP is from the coastal jurisdiction on Line Island. We have a narrow window of shared jurisdiction.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from the audience?
What is this made of?
Yeah.
Those are just
The steps?
Stairs.
There's to be a composite material.
On pilings, I'm assuming?
It's on sonotubes, yeah.
On sonotubes.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak against the application? With no further comments, would someone like to move to close?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Vigliotti Construction, Long Hill Road, subdivision Long Hill Estates West, map 96, lot 1, 2A, and 1D, zone R5, special permit application for 31-lot open space subdivision.
Good evening, Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant Vigliotti Construction. This parcel is located on the east side of Long Hill Road, just north of Alpha Avenue and due south of Spruce Hill Drive. It is bordered on the east by the West River, and the total proposed project consists of 76.8 acres, with 53.4 acres to be deeded as open space. It's about 69.5% of the total project. It's in an R5 zone and qualifies for an open space subdivision. We're proposing 31 residential lots with public water and approximately a 1,300 linear foot town road with the associated drainage. The plans before you are conceptual, yet they do contain detailed information in regards to wetlands, locations, topography, soil testing, for septic designs, and preliminary road design. There are specific elements in the town engineer's comments that we received today that need to be addressed, and they were discussed at a meeting with her today. These comments will be addressed during the final design process. Per Aaron's letter, it is the intent of the regulation to permanently protect open space and wetlands while allowing for flexibility and creativity with lot size and shape. We are not here for an open space subdivision approval tonight, just for the granting of the special permit to proceed with the open space. I believe George can weigh in on this, if there are any questions regarding the procedure aspect of this. And per Aaron's final paragraph, with this open space subdivision, we will be protecting natural resources, we'll be protecting scenic resources, provide public access for passive recreation, and it's adjacent to the Baldwin School that may be used for educational and scientific learning opportunities. And I'm here to address any other questions.
This is one of the first open space subdivision applications we've received. What is the requirement? Is there a baseline requirement for the amount of open space that should be granted, and how much is being granted?
The minimum in this zone is 30%, I'm sorry.
Okay, so 30% would be what in this case? Sorry, 21 acres?
20-something, yeah.
And what, how much is?
60, we're
Yeah,
doing
we're in
almost
Texas.
55 acres.
Wow, that's terrific.
Actually, this is the open space parcel.
Can you describe the location, perhaps describing the school below it, and then how it relates to other town?
Right, well, here's the town Guilford property right here. It's adjacent to the property. There's soccer recreation fields down here also. There was some discussion as to the disposition of the open space, Class A, Class B, Class C, but that's further down the line as to what it's going to be used for. I know Wetlands would like it as a Class A open space, and we're not really sure how it's going to handle it.
The property owner can dictate Class A, B, or C?
It's going to be by the commissioners, town staff.
Has to be B or C?
I mean, A or B. C is municipal use, like a building like this. It's not in this case.
Now, that's Baldwin.
Right here, down here.
You don't hold her on Bittner Trails or anything like that?
I don't believe so.
Well, the Bittner Trails kind of extend from further south up through the Baldwin property, and I believe there are even trails now on the privately owned land along the river.
Yeah, we did locate some, there are existing trails that run through the property now, and actually people just use this now anyway with or without permission.
So
I was going to say, George, if you had do you have a direct question based on what was just?
yeah, just to reference that comment, so that will be the public access that you'll grant to the...
Correct. Well, there'll be other access sites from the road.
Okay.
There may be some parking down here, and so most of the access will be off of here, but there will be easements off the cul-de-sac.
George, is there a way to briefly describe to the public the difference between an open space subdivision versus a normal subdivision?
I can give you a brief overview. Erin has a lengthy memo here that gets into a lot of that sort of thing. Maybe she should read it. But as Chuck said, originally this is an open space subdivision special permit. It's the first special permit application for an open space subdivision under our new open space subdivision regulations, which actually aren't that new. So it's been a little bit of a learning process for all of us to figure out exactly how all this is going to work. Procedurally, the first step is for the property owner or applicant to obtain a special permit, which outlines in fairly general terms, but along the lines of the scale and detail that you see right there, the nature of the application, the location of the lots, the location of the roads, the location of the open space, the number of lots. If and the special permit is granted, then the applicant can proceed to prepare and file for your approval a final subdivision application based on the standards and the criteria and the concept plan that's approved as part of the special permit. So where we are.
require a special permit for them to make an application for a subdivision?
Yes, correct. That's the second step, assuming the first step is approved. So you authorize with the special permit a open space subdivision generally based on this idea. You fix the maximum number of lots, most importantly, which is what a lot of this preliminary is designed to establish, that in fact there are, in this case, 31 viable lots or more or less viable lots. Also establish the parameters of the open space. The open space would eventually, the disposition of it would eventually have to be approved by the commission and also approved by whatever the recipient agency is. In this case, the proposal is to make this open space land, convey it to the town, which has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen and ultimately by town meeting. So there are several steps along those lines. Because of the contiguous town-owned property, the expectation of all of this is that the open space would be conveyed to the town, and we're pretty certain that the town will accept it based on lots of conversations that have taken place previous to this. So the special permit process has some fairly detailed and also some fairly general criteria. A lot of the discussion we've had about this project is how much design do we need to see right now as opposed to see in the second stage of the process, the final subdivision plan. You'll hear about that more when you read the town engineer's memo. We wanted the process to be one where property owners and applicants are encouraged to make open space subdivisions because it's an option at the discretion of the owner of the property. The town cannot dictate an open space subdivision. An open space application has to be made by the property owner and the applicant. So where it's desirable to have open space subdivisions, like presumably in this particular case, we want to encourage people to make this kind of application. So we want the process to be expeditious and reasonable from their point of view, knowing that it's possible that they can do a lot of design and not get a special permit approval, in which case they put at risk, a fair amount of resource. So it's a fine balance in how this whole process works. We're trying to, in this particular case, because it's our first effort in this regard, there's been some little bit of confusion and back and forth, but hopefully that sets the broad outline of where we are with this. Maybe Erin can read or at least summarize her memo, which also then kind of elaborates on a number of these things I just said.
I included, for the record, the open space subdivision regulations, and you have them for reference, and I do reference them just partly to educate you on what your role is in reviewing this special permit application. This applicant, as Chuck has said, is proposing a 31-lot open space subdivision per Article 27 of the zoning regulations. The procedure for this application is as follows: application to planning and zoning for special permit for open space subdivision with a simultaneous application to Inland Wetlands Commission. This application is more of a conceptual design and has only specific requirements, as I'll detail below. The Inland Wetlands Commission is invited to submit comments to you regarding potential impacts to wetlands. Those comments, the Inland Wetlands Commission has already acted and referred comments to you, and those are in your packet as well. After Planning and Zoning Commission approval of a special permit, the applicant can then proceed to make a formal subdivision application, again with a referral to the Inland Wetlands Commission. These particular parcels are located, as Chuck had said, just south of Spruce Hill. The lots combined contain 76.8 acres, 15.3 of them are wetlands. The property is located in R5 zone. Since it contains more than 5 acres, it is eligible for an open space subdivision application. As I had said, you have your packets of regulations included. The intent of this regulation is to encourage permanent protection of open space and wetlands while allowing greater flexibility and creativity in the design of residential developments. Procedurally, Section 273-215 identifies 9 application requirements listed as A through I at the time of subdivision. Item B requires a boundary A2 survey. The map provided shows parcels included in the proposed parcels not included in the proposed open space subdivision, and I recommend that the applicant submit an A2 survey only showing the parcels included in this project. Item C requires inland wetlands boundaries to be defined. This has been done, but the map fails to locate any vernal pools on the property. Item F requires at least 2 deep test pits and at least 1 perk test in both the primary and reserve septic system areas of each lot. The applicant has not included all of this data. Item G requires that the site features shall be shown, including flood hazard zones, existing drainage patterns, meadows, agricultural lands, T-lines, hedgerows, exposed ledge and stone walls, slopes greater than 25%, DEP, significant natural communities, man-made features, archaeological sites, and opportunities for scenic vistas and views. This plan has only provided flood hazard zones and stone walls. As per section 273-218, the applicant has chosen option B as a density multiplier approach to determine the maximum number of lots. The calculations are shown on sheet C2 of 10 submitted in our application. The maximum number of lots is 42 per those calculations. This application, again, is for 31 lots. Please note that the Commission may approve a lesser number of lots in proposed open space subdivision when it determines that environmental or natural resource conditions make the development of said lots undesirable, owing to the potential impact of the lot development on the town's environment. In approving a lesser number of lots, the Commission shall consider the following: the report of the Inland Wetlands Commission, recommendations of other town agencies, recommendations of the town engineer, health director, or the environmental planner, recommendations of state or federal agencies, and recommendations of other qualified experts. To discuss the standards for open space subdivisions, in an R5 zone, the minimum open space requirements 30%. The applicant is proposing 69.54%. All lots shall meet a minimum of 20,000 square feet in an R7 zone. All lots proposed meet this standard. That's essentially an R3 size lot for your reference. The minimum lot frontage is 80 feet. Proposed lots are only shown with curvatures at this point on our maps. Lot frontages should be clearly shown for each lot. A limited number of interior lots, which are less than 80 feet of frontage, may be permitted by the Commission where conditions so merit. I would recommend requesting the number of proposed interior lots and why the applicant feels conditions so merit. With respect to lot shape, I would refer to subdivision standards, section 272-31D, lot lines and shape. Insofar as practicable, the side lot lines of all lots shall be at right angles to the street on which the lot faces, or shall be radial to the street line. Lots with long appendages or panhandles, or lots with extreme irregular shapes shall be prohibited. Lot 4 has a panhandle, and several lots along the proposed road do not have compliant side lot lines. So I would recommend addressing that. The design of this plan does not meet subdivision standards with respect to lot lines and shape. In addition, as clarified in the town engineer's memo, the proposed plan does not comply with road standards. Thereby, it doesn't comply with the subdivision standards for a new street at this point. Section 273-219 allows for modifications to the bulk standards for lots in an open space subdivision. However, such modifications shall not be granted to lots fronting on an existing town road or state highway unless the Commission finds that creating lots along the existing frontage will not adversely affect community character or important community resources. This plan includes 7 lots fronting on Lot Hill Road that have been designed to R3 zone standards. Adjacent parcels have been developed to R5 standards. The Commission must find that by creating these modified lots along existing frontage will not adversely affect community character or important community resources. Lastly, the Commission, in approving an open space subdivision application, shall find that there will be significant community benefit resulting from the open space subdivision, such as finding that the open space preserved will A, protect important natural resources, protect scenic resources, contribute to an overall open space system for the neighborhood or town, and will not result in small or fragmented open space parcels that do not provide community benefits. Preserve areas along town or state roads that will protect rural appearance or character, contribute to establishment of open space corridor or greenway or interconnection of existing open spaces, provide for public access to other open space, or provide for potential recreation areas.
Got a lot of hurdles. That's probably one of the reasons that no one has tried an open space subdivision before. But that said, I do have revised plans based on some of these comments. We got them late today, some of them. I'm not going to give them to the Commission.
I was about to say,
no, I'm not going to give the Commission.
Our job right now is
no.
just try to give you a special permit to make
Right. Exactly. And then one of the ingredients in this was the aspect of the flexibility and creativity of the lots, and I believe the commission may have the ability to waive some of the subdivision requirements if we can prove that the lots are still viable. In regards to the road not being, we haven't finished road plans. We just got comments, more comments from Janice. The character of the neighborhood, I did go to the GIS website. You have alpha, beta, gamma right across the street. Some of those lots are about half the size of some of the lots that we're proposing. So I don't believe that's really affecting the neighborhood. I imagine we will probably be continuing this so we can address some of Aaron's comments prior to the next.
Yeah, there are a couple more letters. I'll tackle one and let someone else tackle it.
Just to further clarify that comment, I think it's clear that we will ask you to continue this hearing to another day, to the second public hearing as required, because there will be a lot of, sort of loose ends, as we just talked about, that need to be put together before the special permit can be acted on. Just to anticipate that, not to cut off any discussion right now, but to anticipate.
That being said, we're not necessarily deliberating on a fully complete.
No, we're not at all.
No, you're not, and you're
not deliberating
on the special permit, at least that's aren't going to
If
be
I
a
can, in
suggestion.
regards to some of the requirements for the open space subdivision, I was talking to Dennis Johnson. 4 test pits are required, 2 in the primary, 2 in the reserve. We did over about 150 test pits out there. Dennis was comfortable with the fact that to do 2 in the primary, 1 in the reserve, which is standard practice, unless you find unsuitable soils. We tested 30 lots that we did have suitable soil with, and we went out on Tuesday, I believe, with Dennis, and we did find suitable soil in the one area that we did. So I don't even think Dennis had a chance to. Dennis did the pits, but I don't think he sent a letter.
He does have a memo.
Oh, he does have a memo.
I think he's going to clarify that.
So in regards to the 4 test pits as opposed to 3, I mean, there's certain nuances of the regulations that may not be really relevant to subdivision.
There's a note here from Kevin Clark, Chairman, Inland Wetlands. I'll read quickly. Dear Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, at the Inland Wetlands meeting on July 10th, 2019, the Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission took the following action: voted that the Inland Wetlands Commission reports favorably to the Planning and Zoning Commission for open space subdivision special permit based on the concept plans for 2103 and 2131 Long Hill Road, residential open space subdivision, Long Hill Estates East, 10 sheets prepared for Vigliotti Construction Company dated April 30th, 2019, last revised May 18th, 2019, site preserve more open space, especially adjacent to the West River. The property has interconnected wetlands located near the top of steep slopes on the east side of the property that slope to the West River. During an Inland Wetlands Commission site walk, obligate vernal pool species were observed in these wetlands. Open space proposed would help to protect large portion of on-site inland wetlands and approximately 1,750 feet of the West River. In order to provide additional protection to the inland wetlands and watercourse located on the property, the Commission recommends the following conditions for approval: all buildings, stormwater infiltration systems, primary leaching fields, and reserve leaching fields on the residential lots be located a minimum of 50 feet from wetlands and watercourses. Water flow across the property not be restricted by roads or driveways. 3, the applicant submit for subdivision review a hydraulic study of water flow across the site for pre- and post-development. 4, avoid direct impacts to wetlands. RE crossing spanning would be a priority. 4, avoid blasting. Reasonable, prudent alternatives within 50 feet of resources. 6, recommend dedicated open space by Class A open space classification, which is defined as private or public land that is maintained as undeveloped and essential to the preservation of natural systems and rural characteristics of the community, and can provide a range of passive outdoor recreational opportunities. 7, recommend as much Cape Cod curbing as possible. Very truly yours, Kevin Clark, Chairman, Inland Wetlands Commission. Please.
This will be a long time. I think you might have this one already.
Yeah, we do, and like I said, most of it has to do with final design, so.
But I'm going to put it out here for. This is dated today from Janice Plesiak, Town Engineer. Reason: Vigliotti Construction Special Permit Application, Open Space Subdivision,
2103 and 2131 Long Hill Road. I have reviewed the application for the above referenced project and offer the following comments for the Commission's considerations. Existing drainage patterns should be shown on the plan. Show more clearly the properties included in this application separate from adjacent properties not part of the application. The proposed development should include the construction of sidewalks along Long Hill Road from the northern property boundary limits to the southern property boundary limits. The plan should show vernal pools on site within 750 feet of areas to be disturbed. Drainage, I think it's detention or retention basins should not be within 750 feet of vernal pools. Additional drainage detention basins will likely be needed between Long Hill Road and the wetland crossing, since the drainage discharge will likely occur at this location to maintain existing drainage patterns. 6, under the open space subdivision regulations, fronting on an existing town road are not to be included in the type of development unless the P&Z Commission finds that creating lots along the existing frontage will not adversely affect community character or important community resources, referenced sections 274-219. Final statement. The proposed open space lots for the R3 standards along the frontage of Long Hill Road are adjacent to and interspersed with the lots that are R5 zone, thus creating mixed or spot zoning in this area of the proposed development. Lots that front Long Hill Road should be combined to maintain the R5 standards. Detailed engineering and grading plans may affect the number of lots the Commission should be setting an upper limit of lots with the understanding that the lots as shown on the current plan may not result as being feasible due to grading and drainage constraints. 8, the plan as designed does not comply with the following road standards. No more than 3 driveways are to be on the bulb of the cul-de-sac. Driveways are to be radial to curbs. There is a minimum of 20 lots to be served by a cul-de-sac. This shows 22 lots on the cul-de-sac road. Minimum stopping site distances on the proposed road should be demonstrated at this stage. Reference to Town Ordinance Chapter 214, Street and Sidewalks, Article 4. 9, lot frontages should be clearly labeled for each lot. Many of the lots lack the minimum required frontage and therefore will result in many of these lots, over 30% of the lots, being interior lots. The zoning regulations in Section 273-219B, subsection 1 state the minimum width may be decreased provided that in no event shall a lot have less than 80 feet of frontage. However, a limited number of interior lots may be permitted by the Commission when the conditions merit. 10, the access road to the drainage basin should be over the pipeline and at least 15 feet wide. A turn area will be needed to be provided adjacent to the detention basin. The access road can double as a pedestrian path to connect into town land at Baldwin School. Fencing or other barriers may need to be provided to keep pedestrians out of the detention basin. The following comments are more relevant to the subdivision plan stage review. However, the applicant did not submit a drainage study and preliminary design. They did?
Yes, the applicant did submit.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's okay.
Did submit a drainage study and preliminary design, to which the following additional comments apply. 11, the site requires a general permit for stormwater discharge from DEEP. The GP requires design per the 2004 Stormwater Quality Manual. The calculations presented do not demonstrate compliance with the manual or the general practices. General permit, excuse me. Thank you. Provide the narrative including how the site meets the requirements in the manual, namely WQV and WQF groundwater recharge, peak flow control, stream channel protection, peak runoff, etc. This applies to the entire developed site per the GP. Demonstrate what the emergency outlet will pass the 100-year peak runoff rate in a controlled manner. 14, provide narrative and calculations demonstrating any proposed alterations to the wetland hydrology. 15, provide existing drainage patterns to show watersheds are not redirected. 16, identified vernal pools should be indicated on the plan. 17, the impact to the wetland should be more closely evaluated after the drainage adjustments have been made in order to determine if there is a necessity for an, I don't know what the acronym starts, permit and the Connecticut DEP permit. The pavement section and width of the shoulder should be designated based on the soils in order to retain the integrity of the road, especially in the area of the crossing. Under drains in the cut sections may be necessary depending on soil type and groundwater elevations. 19, a stormwater management plan is required at the time of submittal. 20, lip curving rather than the Cape Cod curbing should be shown. Cape Cod curbing may be appropriate adjacent to the wetland areas. Yeah.
There's also a quick one from Dennis Johnson, Director of Health. Soil testing on the applicant's proposed subdivision has been completed for all proposed building lots, with the most recent test completed on August 20th, 2019 for Lot 5. Soil tests revealed characteristics of special concern related to elevated water table and shallow bedrock throughout the entire subdivision parcel. Consequently, all building lots will require septic systems designed by a licensed professional engineer. The entire subdivision will be serviced by public water supply. The remaining item needing completion before the Department of... Sorry?
Second one from Dennis that will
You want this one? Thanks.
replace that one.
Sorry about that.
Good until consequently.
I'm good up to consequently?
On the new one, yeah.
I'll just go. Soil testing on the applicant's proposed subdivision has been completed for all proposed building lots, with the most recent test completed August 20th, 2019 for Lot 5. Soil test result revealed characteristics of special concern related to elevated water table and shallow bedrock. Consequently, all building lots will require septic systems designed by a licensed professional engineer. Soil test results indicate that suitable areas exist on each lot for installation of septic systems, and depending upon the final location chosen for the house and the septic system, additional test pits may be necessary for design purposes. The entire subdivision will be serviced by public water supply. The remaining item needing completion before the Health Department approval of the subdivision can be issued is to add locations of recent test pits on Lot 5, along with the basic septic system layout.
At the beginning of the meeting to you guys, so it's a little separated in your package there.
Those are one from you, Ken? Yep.
Yeah, it's before the meeting. I'm off the printer. Well, it's just a lot of stuff. August 21st, 2019, the Government Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McKee and local planner, special permit to legalize destruction, Long Hill State East, special permit. I'm pleased to see that the applicant is proposing an open space subdivision on a 76.8-acre site with a dedication of 53.4 acres of open space. The open space subdivision regulation section 273-217, criteria for approval notes that the commission may approve an open space special permit application when the commission finds that there will be a significant community benefit resulting from the open space subdivision. Such finding that the open space preserved will result in the space preserved will A, protect the important natural resources, B, protect scenic resources, C, contribute to the overall open space space for the neighborhood or town, and will not result in small fragmented open space parcels that do not provide community benefits. D, preserve areas along state or town roads that will protect the rural appearance or character. E, contributes to establishment of an open space corridor, greenway, or interconnection of the existing open spaces. F provides for open space, public access to other open space. G provides for the potential recreation areas. The proposed 53.4 acre open space subdivision meets the majority of the list criteria. This open space subdivision protects the important natural resources of the on-site inland wetlands, runoff pools, pond, steep slopes, and the West River. The dedicated open space would extend the open space along the West River from Vintner Park to the proposed subdivision and potentially in the future to the property to the north. Sections of the proposed open space area have informal trails connected to Vintner Baldwin Trail System. In addition, preliminary plans for the subdivision show a proposed path from the cul-de-sac to the Baldwin School. Recreational activities utilized on the adjacent properties which could be extended north consist of hiking, mountain biking, horseback riding, and fishing. Section 273-219, standards for open space subdivisions. Section B1 notes that the minimum number of lots I forgot interior lots, may be permitted by the commission when conditions merit. With utilizing low-impact development principles with an open space subdivision, it is recommended that the design provides an efficient layout to minimize the overall length and width of the street. By having interior lots as part of the subdivision layout, the developer is able to design a shorter road which provides for a cluster development near Long Hill Road. It reduces the impervious surface area of the development and prevents further construction towards the steep slopes and the West River, which allows the area to be open space that protects the on-site wetlands and West River. From reviewing the application, the above referenced project has the following concerns which should be addressed. The applicant has completed the checklist to guide low-impact development best management practices. The applicant indicated that the checklist that they identified the natural drainage patterns, location of steep slopes, significant trees, clusters, street line trees, meadows, agricultural land, exposed ledge, stone walls. However, this information is not shown on the submitted plans. An existing condition plan should be submitted with this information. 2, special permit application requires a plan showing the relationship to another open space located adjacent to nearby property. As noted above, the corridor of open space is located east of the Baldwin School and continues south to the West River to Vintner Park. Additionally, an undeveloped lot is located north of the property. The subdivided open space could be connected to the proposed dedicated open space. This area of open space should be noted on a regional plan. 3, as part of the subdivision application, the developer should utilize additional low-impact design practices, such as not connecting all the stormwater into a single detention basin. Consider the use of a depressed island in the cul-de-sac for bioretention. Cape Cod curbing should be utilized from Station 8 to the end of the cul-de-sac to allow crossing for amphibians. The Natural Diversity Database review for the property noted that eastern box turtles and the wood turtles are located in a portion of the project site. As a condition of approval, the applicant should follow the recommendations in the August 5, 2019 Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection NDDB Determination Letter 2019-08311 dated August 5, 2019, and that's part of the that's in the application package. Thank you.
I have 3 questions, less comments. The first one is, could you, after all of that that was just read, could you briefly summarize for us what, as Kevin said in his memo, what you believe is the significant community benefits for this project?
Community benefit?
Yeah.
Well, I believe this is an important corridor along the river, and this would be completely protected. It's adjacent to the school, and it has many walking paths. So for recreation, it would have a benefit, and also environmentally. You mentioned the turtles, different amphibians, wildlife. Most of those wouldn't even migrate up past the river, so it's protecting. As opposed to, I had comments of why can't you just put 5 have horse lots? Well, if this was a 5-lot subdivision, none of this would be protected. You'd have a 10% open space parcel right in that area. I believe this open space, the lot configurations are actually in keeping with the neighborhood based on what's across the street. Bring public water up here would be for future development in case there's issues with that. Sidewalks along Long Hill so they can potentially walk to school. Some of the residents, children there. Some of those comments we already addressed. Like I said, I'm not going to give them to you now. We just received those letters today.
My second question / comment was, obviously you have all of Janice's comments and whatnot, and is it a reasonable expectation that you're going to address as many of those as possible in your next submission, as well as, or provide, a reasonable response for her comments?
Yes, absolutely. We met with her today. There were no showstoppers, let's say. Everything that we can address. There was something, I spoke to Bob Russo, soil scientist, today, and actually he identified one of the vernal pools, and it's actually we show it on this plan. So there's a 750-foot buffer that she would like. That's, if it was a dot, it would be like 40 acres that would effectively take out of there. But it was specifically detention basins, and the problem with detention basins adjacent to vernal pools, the detention basins act as like a decoy system for the amphibians, but he said there are ways to mitigate that so you can drain those detention basins quicker so they don't get fooled into laying, the obligate species aren't fooled into laying eggs in there. But yes, we can address those comments.
And then my last question is, can you explain for everyone the difference between Cape Cod and lip curves?
Sure. The Wetlands Commission would like Cape Cod curbing because curbing is like this, almost 90 degrees to the road, and Janice likes that for keeping the water contained in the roadway and also for safety reasons. A car is less likely to ride up on a curb. The Wetlands Commission wants it sloped so the amphibians can crawl up it and not make it impossible for them. So Janice doesn't like Cape Cod curbing. The Wetlands Commission wants Cape Cod curbing. And as Kevin had mentioned, maybe in certain wetland areas, we can mix and match the Cape Cod with the lip curbing.
The Cape Cod is kind of triangular shape, right?
Yes, yep. It's like a handicap ramp for the amphibians.
Thank you for this letter, Kevin. This is actually very helpful because one of my questions was similar, this idea of community resources. So it seems like the commission has a little bit of flexibility and creativity, as you said, to assess whether or not this project is providing these community resources. And I think in Kevin's letter, the sort of interior lot configuration of your cul-de-sac really makes sense from sort of an environmental efficiency standpoint. So I think maybe in the next time that we see you, perhaps you can emphasize in your presentation this idea of community resources and areas where you would like us to consider creativity. I think for me, that's going to make the decision a little bit easier because that seems like where we have discretion. Maybe I'm wrong, but...
Well, there's certain aspects of it. You're absolutely correct. The roads fronting Long Hill Road really aren't supposed to be part of the subdivision. But in order to keep the lot yield down, Aaron had mentioned with this formula, we could have 42 lots. My client economically can live with 31 lots. So we compressed this as much as we possibly could. She said the curves, all these C's on here, that doesn't mean curve, that's curve data. So there's a curve table that's on here that actually shows the frontages. So there's some misinterpretation of reading the plans. The watersheds are shown on here. They're difficult to see because they're very light, but there's a lot of information that's on these plans that may not, when we originally submitted them, they might have been lacking, but now we have some of that. But especially with interior lots, the commission has some flexibility. Being radial, no more than 3 driveways on the bulb of the cul-de-sac. Actually, we were looking at maybe combining driveways, so sharing a driveway. It's not very desirable, but we can do that. So there are aspects of the subdivision regulations that we can achieve. 22 lots versus 20 lots on the road. We can reconfigure a couple of these lots and maybe get it to 20. So there are ways that we can mitigate some of these questions.
One of the things I'd like to say is, obviously there are a lot of comments and concerns. just, if we could, at our next meeting, kind of bullet them, here was the comment, here's what we're doing about it, here's why we can't do it, just so we can get a better understanding.
Well,
That'd be-
hopefully they're less.
Right, exactly.
By the time
Check-
we come back.
check, check, check,
There'll
you know,
be
that-
3 comments and we'll.
That would make life a lot easier.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Well, we could, I mean, clearly, we didn't really synthesize these memos in a way, because there was a lot of repetition of the same, saying more or less the same thing a couple different times, so we'll work on that. And some of the engineering comments perhaps could be sent directly to the engineer rather than to the engineer via a memo to the Planning and Zoning Commission. These are all sort of processes that we're trying to work out.
Part of the
Well,
learning process.
and speaking to that, I would like the staff members to realize this is just to agree to the special permit. I think Janice really wants almost finished plans. She's concerned that some of these may address the final lot yield, but if the commission approves the 31 lots and concepts, if they don't work from an engineering standpoint, they won't have it. They won't pass the test of getting these viable lots.
The regulations do have a specific list of what is required for,
But
with
subdivision-
this application.
but
And
subdivision
as it's the
regulations
zoning
can
code,
be-
it's not waivable.
No,
Like the
subdivision regulations are not waivable.
The
No, they aren't.
subdivision code is. The zoning regulations, the zoning commission does not have the authority to waive zoning regulations.
Understood.
So this is a special permit application under this section, and then once you return with the subdivision application.
That's
Right,
that's
yeah.
our intent. Or perhaps the open space subdivision regulations need to get tweaked.
Are there any clarifying questions from the audience? Again, we're going to be talking about this more in 2 weeks, or when do you want to come back? We could be the 4th. Ready? I'll answer for you. You don't want to, but it's.
The next meeting is September 4th.
Okay, so you could go the 4th or the 18th. Depends on what type of time.
Well, I mean, let's try to go for the 4th.
Okay.
And then if there are issues, then we can bump it to the 18th.
Are there-
I mean, statutorily, I think we're okay.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak in favor or against the application? Someone like to make a motion to continue to the 4th?
So moved. Second.
One thing, based on the public turnout, I don't think there's much opposition to this, but
Well, the public may not be aware.
the way it's been noticed.
Yeah.
And this is
Public
actually,
hearing.
the wetlands was noticed, and a couple of neighbors showed up, and this has been noticed.
So when the next, check for the next meeting, Pat Witherell from 56 Bruce Hill Drive. I have my property, that's 4 lots that you're going to be with.
Yep.
The next meeting, will there be things that we can look at prior to the meeting?
Again, so what we're doing right now at this phase is we're just approving a special permit that allows them the right to bring a plan before us. So it's kind of more of a guideline.
You can, however,
Is in the planning and zoning office for review. You may come in
I already
to
saw
review
that.
the plans.
I opened it up, yeah, I saw that.
And as the subsequent plans come in, you can come in
Okay.
and review
And
those
when
as well.
will those be available?
They're available today, they're the ones that were.
I mean, after all the
The
recommendations
revisions.
that were put forth, you're going to address those, are you going to make changes?
Materially, in regards to your concerns, I don't really think it's going to change much, but they're available, they'll be before the meeting, the next meeting.
But are we going to address how many interior lots based on 80-foot frontage? Or are we going to address,
I don't think that's going to.
Again, what we've asked for is a list of current deficiencies, and then see what we can do about addressing those at our next meeting, to the best of our ability, knowing that, again, this is kind of the initial phase of the process.
well, correct the understanding that this special permit's not necessarily the final of what that subdivision will absolutely look like. This is more just determining the minimum number of lots. Maximum number of lots.
Maximum number of lots, that's the.
And
that
kind of
is-
giving the go-ahead that you can proceed with planning a subdivision that
They can do.
that will then review later.
The layout that
Correct.
will be coming back before you.
More of an overall layout.
So we have a motion to continue second. I'll call a vote. All in favor? See you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next are the very patient Michael and Candace Van Ames, 321 Foxwood Road, map 88, lot 19-20, zone R8, special permit for an accessory apartment, 640 square feet living space in new attached garage, 360 square feet.
Richard Spotlow, Heritage Home Improvements, representing Mike and Candace Van Emmons. We've submitted surveys, plans, we're within setback requirements. We're seeking special permit for 640 square foot accessory apartment, 360 square foot garage. We're within the required square foot based on the 35% ratio of current living space.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Your
apologize.
plans?
My architect
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
canceled on us last minute, so it's a little archaic, but we do have in the gray 640 square foot, one bedroom accessory apartment with garage. Again, within the setback requirements. We did have Dennis Johnson come out, do test pits. So if we do get the special permit, we will be replacing the septic tank along with the permit to comply with the added bedroom.
We have the letter from Dennis right here,
Okay?
dated August 20th, 2019. Subject Van Emmons, Michael and Candace, 321 Foxwood Road, map 88, lot 1920. The applicant's proposed accessory apartment will increase the wastewater flow, design flow for the septic system currently on site. Soil testing conducted on the site revealed a suitable area to expand the septic system to accommodate the addition of the apartment. Based upon the soil test and the site plan review, it is recommended that the applicant's proposed accessory apartment be approved with the following condition. Prior to final occupancy approval of the accessory apartment by the building official, the septic system shall be enlarged to accommodate the increased residential wastewater design flow. Is that what you had today?
Yes. So we're putting a new 1,500 gallon tank, and we're removing 57 feet of old leaching and installing 60 feet of manholes.
All the boxes in terms of, and we got notice to all the neighbors.
Yes, we have our certificate of mailing, correct.
Any questions from commissioners?
Residential
Yeah.
boxes checked.
You have to live in one or the other, you know that, right? Okay. Sorry, I throw it out, just.
That happens.
Any questions from the audience? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak against?
I'd like to make a motion to waive the second requirement meeting.
I'll second. Discussion? I'll call the vote on waiving the second public hearing. All in favor?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's deal with, someone make a motion to approve the revised agenda.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. Deliberation of public hearings, so we're going to tackle Bennett Hall trustee for the CAM application only. Let's see if there is.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approved the coastal site plan and installed 2 new septic systems, and after-the-fact approval for a dock landing as shown on an application dated June 14, 2019, revised to August 12, 2019, in quote, proposed subsurface sewage disposal system and coastal site plan, end quote, dated July 4, 2019, revised to August 16, 2019, prepared by Waldo and Associates. This application is approved with the following conditions. Those are the 3 from Kevin, which would be number 1. Want me to read them all? Okay. 1, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to site construction. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and or hay bale. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. 2, well cutting should be contained to a settling pit, and well drilling fluid should be pumped into a sediment bag. The sediment bag should be contained by hay bales or silt fence. 3, note site work to be conducted between March 31st and August 15th. And this application is approved based on the finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
We have a motion? Someone like to second it?
Second.
Let's have some discussion. I mean, I hear you on the rising sea level.
So I guess just for the public record, I think it's important to note that we arrived at a sort of a bit of an impasse in that seems to be no real regulation to consider the longevity of such a system and if it will actually function with a very conservative sea level rise of 2.5 feet in 25 years for a system that should be operational 30 years from now. I mean, there's really no, seems to be no current regulation other than that they had to follow the 2.5 feet.
The state reg said that depending on the type of applications, that we consider sea level rise as part of our planning process.
So the septic system does not require that consideration?
Well, the criteria for constructing a septic system are contained in the Connecticut Public Health Code, which regulates the design of such systems normally. So any consideration of sea level rise would have to be incorporated into the Public Health Code, would be my understanding. Unless we were to incorporate something specifically, as maybe Kevin's alluding to, in our coastal site plan regulation, which says something about septic systems in coastal areas and the elevation at which they have to be constructed. But we would want to incorporate that in the coastal site plan regulation,
Sure, yeah.
rather than, just on an ad hoc basis,
No,
tell
but
people they have to do it.
Perhaps as part of would that fall under the planometrics rewrite?
I think it could be something that we
We
could
could
bring up
discuss that.
with our
Right.
floodplain manager
Right.
and our health director and get some feedback.
We could make it, we could make a
Right.
note to kind of put that on the table for
Sure,
them to at
absolutely.
least look at that.
And one of the other considerations here is that you're not dealing with a new development scenario. You're dealing with retrofitting septic systems that are already there.
There's only one, right?
So that to some extent, you might want to differentiate. You wouldn't want to encourage, wouldn't want to discourage people from renovating septic systems by creating a regulation that made that difficult. So there are a number of considerations, but I think, having Dennis involved in making sure we're not stepping on the authority of the Director of Health and also the regulatory authority embodied in the Public Health Code, was something we'd have to look at a little more carefully.
I think Mark Young also indicated when it got clarification there that this bottom of the system would meet the sea level rise projection for 2050, that it wouldn't be affected by sea level rise up to the 2050 period there.
We shall see.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Sea level rise is, it's not in stone. We don't know what's going to happen in 30 years to 50 years. If we're going to start telling people what they can do with their septic systems, what's going to happen in 30 years from now, I think we're going a little bit too far. I think we have regulations in place to take care of the situation at the time with what's going along. If we see a difference, I'm sure that the health department will address it and we will make new regulations. But for predicting what's going to happen in 30 to 50 years, you know an awful lot more than most people. Everybody's got an idea, but nobody's sure.
Thank you. So we have a motion, second. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you.
Vote of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit modification for Bernard and Sandra Lombardi at 70 Reeve Avenue, map 9, lot 76, for storage shed and sunroom addition as shown on application dated 7/5/19 in quote site development plan residential addition 70 Reeves Avenue dated 5/21/17 amended to 7/5/10 prepared by Bernard Lombardi Architects. Application approved with the following condition. 1, that prior to starting any site work, the zoning enforcement officer be notified. 2, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer be notified to inspect the sedimentation erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. So,
Great. Discussion? I mean, I think it's,
And he dots all the i's and crosses the t's.
yeah, I mean, and he had a prior approval that was much more, let's call it invasive.
Yeah.
It covered more, so this is really a scaled-back version of what was already approved. So I think it's terrific. Yeah. Any other thoughts? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. You got another one, Frank?
yeah. Zalberman. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal site plan application for Gale and Dagnett Zalberman at 267 Old Sachem's Head Road, map 8, lot 32, for construction of a dock and associated stairs as shown on an application dated July 11, 2019, and quote, coastal site plan prepared for Gale and Dagnett Zalberman, end quote, dated 7/10/19, prepared by Stephen and Associates. This application is approved with the following conditions. There are no conditions.
I should say stairs
The pathway.
Path.
Associated pathways.
Yeah.
Associated stairs and
Stairs and path,
and-
associated path,
associated pathway.
pathway.
Is there any provisions for sedimentation control or anything?
It was included in the state permitting.
Okay.
The state doesn't show it, I mean, if you want, you can have Aaron go inspect it.
Do you want to go inspect it? Okay.
I
Okay.
want a second meeting on this one. Well, then I'm, all right,
Let's
then
just
you
do
don't do this back to public hearings. I
Okay.
think this is a bad move. Pardon me? Oh. I think that there's no reason why it has to be 27 feet off from the shoreline. It is impeding the clamming, and I think that's definitely wrong, because there's no reason why it needs to be 27 feet. If it was 5 feet out, it would serve the same purpose, because when the tide goes out, the tide goes out. If the tide goes out at 27 feet, it's not going to make any difference if it went out at 5 feet, because it's going to be the same height. It's extending out into the water, it's affecting the clamming and the clammers. I don't think it's a good plan at all.
Again, our jurisdiction goes from the mean high water line up.
I realize that.
Okay, so I would say if you're unhappy, I would suggest a quick note to the state DEP expressing your concerns, and, because maybe they were, I mean, I don't think they were going to undo it at this point, but for future reference, they should probably be aware of clamming beds and, you know, those associated resources. And I assume they were, but I don't know their process.
So just for clarification, the 27 feet is what's allowed, or is that design based on tide? Is that design based on?
Their engineer's design, I don't know what they.
I think he indicated that was the maximum length that the application that they made could be.
Certain type of
Right.
process, the
If we have to look
440.
at 27 feet, and the question is it, you have 27 feet this way, but if it tilts down going off a ledge, are you shorter than 27 feet? I don't.
Oh.
Have to look closer to the plans here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering what went into the design of that length.
They look at the resources around it.
He also indicated that was the maximum.
Yep.
Allowable.
Allowable.
Under that
So-
particular type.
Discussion? I mean, again, it's a CAM, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? All against? Abstentions? Motion passes. Let's see, Vigliotti, we are continuing. Van Emmes,
Voted, the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approved a special permit for Michael and Candace Van Emmons at 321 Foxwood Road, map 88, lot 19 through 29, for an accessory apartment as shown on application dated 7/29/19, and quote, Van Emmons house plans, end quote, dated 7/25/19, 6 sheets. This application is approved with the following conditions. 1, prior to final occupancy approval of the accessory apartment by the building official, the septic system shall be enlarged to accommodate the increased residential wastewater design flow. This application is approved based on a finding that it conforms with the zoning code. The special permit is effective on August 30th, 2019, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Great, discussion? I mean, it checks all the boxes, they live in one unit. I mean, I think a lot of people are building these for parents, for whomever. Yeah, yes. Any discussion? I don't have any concerns about it. We waived the second public hearing. So I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you very much. Subdivision, Titan Properties, 885 Nut Plains Road, map 92, lot 8A, zone R4, two-lot subdivision. Thank you for waiting around. Sure, steal the... That's fine.
Seems to be the popular choice.
Try to get a little closer to the mic so we can pick you up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
We can see.
So for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers in Madison. So I'm here tonight on behalf of Titan Properties, the owner of the land, and Kyle Samuel is here with me also tonight. This is started out as a 2.5 acre parcel of land on Nut Plains Road, street number 885, Nut Plains Road on the east side of the road, towards the northern end of Nut Plains Road. Not quite to the intersection of Stepstone and North Madison Road, but several hundred feet back. A division by right was done to split off one lot. That was approved. That map has been filed in the land records, and this application is to subdivide the remaining land into two lots. The Inland Wetland Commission approved the boundary amendment last week, as well as the regulated activities associated with the application, which I'll describe in a second. And I assume you should have a report from them regarding the subdivision referral in your packets. I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming you have.
Janice?
It's included in my
here.
memo.
Oh, it is? Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
That
sorry.
discusses the wetlands.
So we received a comment from the town engineer early on that we'd forgotten to, in our drainage easement that we're going to grant to the town. We had forgotten to put the words "to the town of Guilford," so that's been done. It's on the subdivision map. And the only other comment I'm aware of is, or two others actually, Dennis Johnson wanted us to do additional soil testing. We did that this morning with Lee Archer, one of the town sanitarians. And Kevin sent me an email this afternoon about an invasive species on the lot within the wetlands, which we could, or maybe you'd probably be better off describing it, actually. Okay. So the lots are, those are the only staff comments that I'm aware of. So this property is in the R4 zone. I think the minimum lot area is 30,000 square feet. Is that right here? I'm going by memory. And so we're proposing to create two lots, single-family homes served by on-site sewage disposal systems, wells, and public power and communication utilities. No subdivision improvements, rather straightforward. No subdivision improvements to be offered to the town. The drainage easement is something I discussed with the town engineer to see if it made sense, and she thought it did, so we've shown that on the subdivision map, and that'll be granted to the town. There's the lot, the parcel is relatively flat, except for along its rear boundary. I don't know if you may not have the plans, but if you were to look at this closely, you would see along the rear boundary, there's a significant drop-off. And that's because I understand in the early 70s, by the way, this is all sand and gravel here. In the early 70s, material was removed for the subdivision that created, is it Valley Shores Track? So sometime in the early 70s, gravel was extracted for construction purposes, we understand. So.
Does it have the required frontage on the roads?
It does.
And how big are each of the lots that are being created?
They are, one is, I think, 1.0. One is, lot 1 is 0.7 acres, a little over 30,000 square feet. And lot 2 is larger, it's 46,000 plus square feet, 1.06 acres. And that's because it has wetlands on its, on this corner of the lot. There's a water course that comes from the opposite side of Nut Plains Road, crosses under the road in a culvert, cuts diagonally across this parcel, enters a head wall, and is piped down to Valley Shores Road behind this subdivision. And the wetlands shown on the plan are the wetlands associated with that water course.
There's a note here from Janice Plasiak. I'll just read it quick. Plans show a design, a drainage easement area. This should be updated with the addition of to the town of Guilford, unquote. On the plan, also a condition of approval should be that legal drainage easement document be presented to the town for review and approval and be filed on the land records at the same time or prior to filing the subdivision. Are you fine with that?
That's the note I was talking
Okay,
about.
yep, we've changed it.
That's been added.
Okay.
That's what it was.
And the drainage easement?
That'll happen with staff, assuming the commission acts to approve it. That'll happen with staff. Yeah.
Questions from commissioners? Kevin, you want to read your letter?
Keep me busy tonight. Quite showed up. A lot of writing the past day or so. The applicant is proposing to divide a 1.75 acre lot into two lots. The existing lot to be subdivided contains a house and an in-ground swimming pool that are to be demolished. The existing well and septic system will be abandoned following the protocols on the plan. The plan for the project has some erosion control measures that are in compliance with section 273-97D of the zoning regulations. The southwest corner of lot 2 contains an area of running bamboo, which is a regulated plant under Connecticut general statutes. The bamboo should be kept 40 feet or greater from a budding property or a public right-of-way. Any property owner who allows bamboo to grow beyond the boundaries of their property is liable for damage caused to any neighboring property by such bamboo, including but not limited to the cost of removal of any bamboo that grows beyond property boundaries. Wetlands are located along the southwest corner of the property. The Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission at its August 14, 2019 meeting voted to refer favorably the subdivision land of Titan Properties LLC and approve a regulated activity for the construction of 2 single-family residences within a 100-foot jurisdiction review zone as shown on plan titled Site Development Plan, page 1, and detailed page 2, dated, prepared by Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors dated June 1st, 2019, and record subdivision of land of Titan Properties LLC 85 North Plains Road, prepared by Gesek Associates dated May 9, 2019. Recommendation for condition of approval, the town of Guilford zoning officer be notified and inspect sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to the site work, and soil stockpiles be contained by silt fencing or hay bale. Soil erosion and sediment control measures shall be maintained until vegetation established or suitable materials installed with satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. The applicant should have the running bamboo removed from lot 2 prior to the sale of the property. If the bamboo is not removed, the applicant should notify the buyer of the property that running bamboo is located on the property near the property line and the town right away, and that the new property owner would be responsible for the cost of any damage caused to the neighboring properties, including bamboo removal.
Thank you. What I'm going to propose is that we take a quick break and change the tape. So we will conduct no business, and we will see you back here in 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much. No business was conducted. We'll continue with Titan Properties and the subdivision. So, any questions from commissioners?
How does this relate to the regulations about open space for subdivisions.
We've resolved that, the applicants agreed to pay fee in lieu of in accordance with the subdivision code.
Any questions from the audience? Anyone want to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak against? Someone like to make a motion to close? And is there a proposed motion? It's not a public hearing, so don't even close.
I'll make a motion. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a 2-lot subdivision application for Titan Properties at 885 Nut Plains Road, map 92, lot 8A, as shown on the following. Quote, record subdivision map, unquote, dated May 9th, 2019 by Gasek and Associates. Also, quote, site improvement plan, Titan Properties, unquote, and quote, details, unquote, dated 6/1/2019 by Gasek and Associates. This application is approved with the following conditions, that the applicant has agreed to a fee in lieu of open space regulation. Prior to filing the
Fee
subdivision
in lieu
map.
of be paid in accordance with the subdivision regulations.
You know, add the
As-
environmental planner's
Yep,
conditions.
and then also, condition number 2, that the 2 conditions per the environmental planner. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning subdivision codes of the town.
I'll second that.
Discussion? I'm glad they agreed to the fee, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Great. All in favor? Thanks.
Have a great
Bennett Hall trustee has been tabled to 9/4.
Have a public hearing on the subdivision application?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do, and that is what we have as your last date to act on the subdivision application. I do anticipate that the applicant will be granting an extension to your November meeting, which would max out our 65 days plus a 65-day extension. That would allow time for the installation of the septic system.
That's fine. Applications to be received, Post Road 640 LLC, 640 Boston Post Road, map 48, lot 25, zone TS site plan modification to allow for updates to existing building and revisions to parking and entrance. We received that. Do we need to receive and take action? No, we just
They'll-
receive it. Okay.
Yep, they'll be here at your next meeting to
Okay.
present.
No, that's the old Emerson, right? New England Supply. Oh, wow. That's great. Good job, Brian. Coastal site plan. Sean Portley, 65 Sachem's Head Road, map 21, lot 22, zone R5, coastal site plan application to remove existing single-family dwelling and associated utilities and construct new family dwelling, appurtenant driveway, utilities, subsurface sewage disposal system. Public hearing scheduled for 9/18. Okay. Richard and Eileen Petrillo, 68 Trolley Road, map 8, lot 63A, zone R2, coastal site plan for new single-family residence, extension granted and public hearing scheduled for 10/2/19. Applications to be received, coastal area management site plan. Daniel Halley, 342 Water Street, map 27, lot 1, zone R6, coastal site plan for new in-ground swimming pool, receive and set public hearing date for 9/18/19. Can I get a motion to approve all those?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. As you guys know, the Board of Selectmen has agreed to hire Planometrics for the rewrite on or the update and rewrite of our zoning code. And I shot out a quick email today asking if anyone was interested, and Jamie and Scott both said they would be very interested. So we will form a quick committee basically to try and work with Planometrics and make sure the process is moving ahead and in the right direction that we want. And they're very experienced, so they'll probably be leading us, but either way. Other DDR Guilford Commons, Boston Post Road, request to hold a parking lot party on September 14th, 2019 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Is anyone here? Brian, talk to us about the party. Brian's going to the party. Look at him.
This is casual Brian McClone.
Economic Development Coordinator for the town. I am here speaking on behalf of the Site Centers people, Morgan Blank, who wrote the letter that I assume all of you have in your file. I mean, she's out in Cleveland and couldn't come in for this. And Diane Gardner, who owns the Pure Bar business in the plaza, has been primarily the merchant doing the coordinating of the local merchants, and unfortunately she's on a buying trip overnight, so she had to be out of town. So I just said I would come and review what was in the letter to see if there were any questions. I have been involved in most of the planning. I probably know potentially most of the answers, and if I don't, we can get some, but I wanted to see if there was any concern. I mean, frankly, this is an activity occurring on private property, but it is a commercial property, and George felt the best thing to do was to put a letter together that kind of summarized the activities. I mean, it's occurring on September 14th from 11 to 4, so we're not starting overly early, not going late in the afternoon or evening. There will be a live band playing from 12 to 4. They did pursue a noise variance request at the suggestion of Chief Hutchison, just to have it on file so that if neighbors commented any concerns, that they could show that they had a variance. And it's still well within the hours that are normally. Yeah, the neighbors on Joan Drive, the abutting property, the businesses below, again, were recommended by Jeff. And a letter is going out to them. I think the recommendation is 15 days in advance, so it'll be going out shortly. I have a copy of it if you want to see it.
I suspect that you will explain it fully to the people.
Well,
Is there a theme to the party? I mean, is there a...
They're just calling it their parking lot party, the Guilford Commons parking lot party. And this is really just a celebration. Not a lot has been done over the last couple of years to promote the Commons, and with the addition of Panera and a few other businesses, this was just a way to try to reinvigorate and give visibility to Guilford residents and any potential tourists that they can attract to here. So it is called the Parking Lot Party. So the notice that's going out to the neighbors is informing them and inviting them to come. It is effectively, it's a free party. There will be a beer tasting, and there is going to be a free will offering suggested for the beer tasting. The Sarah Foundation has been chosen as the nonprofit to get the proceeds that are generated from the beer tasting. And Duvig Brewery and Thimble Islands have agreed to donate the beer, and we'll have people on board around, and there will be local residents serving it as well. But they've worked out a plan as far as checking IDs, banding the people, limiting the number of tastings they get, and then upon their departure, the ribbon or the bands will be cut off so that they can't go out and give it to somebody else. And also by they're going to get tickets for the tasting, so it limits the number they can get for one, and then if somebody tried to use a fake band, they wouldn't have a ticket. So there's like a double check. So they're being very cautious about how they're handling, the beer. And Chief Hutchison was complimentary to the attention to detail in that area.
There's not technically any approvals that we have to grant, is there?
Say, are we actually voting on something? Or are we just
You're
informational
bringing this
purposes
to our
only?
attention.
I just missed all of you, and I wanted to come to a meeting.
You can bring back some old friends.
I did ask George the same question, though, Frank, and we don't technically have a regulation. Courtesy's maybe not the right word, but it was just courtesy to make you aware of an activity happening within a commercial facility. Should any of you get questioned, you're aware of the details of what's intended. Thank you very much for explaining it to us. We appreciate that.
And Brian, I'm just curious, containing the beer drinkers, that the police department have that they have to stay within that fenced area?
There is going to be a fenced-in area that coming in and going out. So it will contain.
Just curious about that.
Will contain that area. Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we want to invite all of you to come, celebrate the day, and have some fun. Okay. Thank you. So I can tell them that everything is good and proceed with
we are
vigor.
Very happy that they kept us in the loop.
Very good. Thanks.
We have bills from Shore Publishing for $57.76. Someone would like to make a motion to approve? So, all in favor? Thank you very much. I did review the minutes, and they appeared substantially correct to me.
I agree, Darren. Good job.
Someone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. With no further business before the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Take care. 2 hours, that's